I really want a partner. That's the only thing I've never been open to because I've been so frightened.
From Mamma Mia, I'm Mia Freedman, and you're listening to No Filter, the podcast for people who like to lean into other people's life stories. It's been a few seasons since I last watched The Bachelorette. I'm not really sure why. I just found the whole premise, I don't know, it was just feeling a little bit tiring to me. But there's something about Angie Kent this year that's got people talking. The ratings are good, and like many women, I can't imagine men watching this show, except perhaps under sufferance on the couch, I've really found myself kind of invested in Angie's mission to find love. Because despite being 29, Angie reckons she's never been in love before. Not properly. Until now. Confession. I knew not one thing about Angie before I met her and we recorded this interview, other than what I'd seen on TV. I'd watched her and her delightful best friend Yvie on Gogglebox. But while watching someone watch other people on TV is extremely meta, it doesn't really give you a backstory. I had a lot of questions about her life before Gogglebox, and then I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here and The Bachelorette, what the process is like behind the scenes, how do the actual mechanics of those shows work? And of course, I wanted her to spill some tea on her current relationship with the guy she picked at the end of this Bachelorette season. And yes, she is in love. Here's Angie Kent. Hi, Ange.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
I want to acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is that we're sitting here and you have found love, have you?
Yes, I'm very happy.
You're very happy. Mm-hmm. You found love, but I don't know who you found love with, and no one listening to this show right now knows.
No.
So even though in your real life it's happened, in terms of where the TV show, we're not there yet, and so you can't discuss it.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to my life.
That must be really strange.
It is. It's surreal because I've lived this a while ago now. So to watch it, but also be having the relationship, but not really because I'm watching it. So I'm staying with you guys. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Was it about 4 months ago from now that you recorded it all?
Yeah. So June I would have started and finished mid-October. August, mid-August.
So it goes for about 2.5 months or so. That's how long it takes to do it.
Yeah.
So obviously you don't see the episodes until now, but you were on the dates. But the person that you chose wasn't on the date. So what's it like for him and you knowing that he's watching, or I assume you talk and stuff.
Yes.
Watching you kissing other guys.
It's one of those things that we both signed up for this knowing, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard. You can say that you'll be fine, but then when you see it, it can be quite confronting. I'm such a good communicator and he's a great communicator that we talk about it, and it's it's not life, it's not normal life, but this is our life right now.
Yeah.
I'm okay for him to get upset and he's okay for me to get upset. We've got a really good understanding with that, which luckily, otherwise it could make this a whole lot harder.
How do you communicate? Because I imagine contractually you're not allowed to be seen in public together.
No.
You have to be super careful because people from the Daily Mail are following you, I imagine.
Yeah. So lots of texting, lots of calling. We do get to meet up, but that's all kind of behind the scenes stuff that we don't really talk about. We do get to see each other, but not often, no.
So in some ways, is it a sort of an old-fashioned courtship? Because now, you can't be physically together very much. You have to get to know each other in this artificially slowed down way.
Yeah, it's almost as if when you're filming, it's the batchy world. You're constantly with a producer. You can't talk with them off camera unless someone's around, obviously, because
you can't talk with the guys.
No, because they want to, we've signed up for this to find love, but for everybody to watch that happen as well. So anything that's off camera has to be very light, like how's the weather, how's this, how's that, but still knowing whether or not you have that feeling there. So then, you're dating in front of cameramen and producers and all that. But it does become real because that's all you know. You're in the batchy bubble. So then once you're out, that's when it starts. But still not really, because it's once the show's done, you have a normal-ish relationship. So it's kind of navigating between filming, post-filming where you're together but you're not together, and then starting your relationship properly once it's all done.
in the glare of the media spotlight because you got to do all that interview and all the interviews and stuff on the day after the finale.
Almost 3 stages to get through to be just an average couple.
Are you looking forward to that time?
You know what? I hate rushing things. I'm very much a big believer in, even if it's hard, this is my experience right now. Embrace it, get through it, because I'm never going to have this opportunity again. We're never going to have our love story again, you know. But yeah, I'm excited. I don't want to rush this time because it's so beautiful to watch it and talk about it. But yeah, it'll be nice to be normal-ish.
Before you were on The Bachelorette and before you were on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, you came into our lives in our lounge rooms on Gogglebox. But I don't know your story before that. Gogglebox is one of those interesting shows where I feel like I'm so familiar with all the people, but I don't know anything about any of them.
Yeah.
So where were you before and how did you get onto Gogglebox?
I was living with Yvie, who I'm obviously on the show with, and together her and I were looking after a man that has Down syndrome named Tom. He has Down syndrome and type 1 diabetes. So you're his housemate, but technically you're like his support worker because you have to be trained in diabetes. So we were living there, we were rescuing dogs, and then one of Yvie's friends, who was post-production producer on one of the Batchies, got an internal email from Shine, who was doing Bachelor at the time, being like, do you know anybody that's, you know, crazy and loves to chat, has an opinion, loves TV? And he's like, do I ever? And he sent a video of Yvie, Tom and I through to Shine casting, and they called us up and they were like, we'd love for you to audition. And we just thought, oh, God, this show sounds awful.
It did sound awful,
didn't it?
It
sounded so bad.
It sounded like the worst show ever.
So bad. But we thought, because we were rescuing dogs at the time, fostering, we were like, if we could get one person to adopt Don't Shop from this show, sorted. We do 1 season, done, see you later. The show just got so big and we just loved it so much, so we just stuck around for 4 years.
Was Tom on the show?
No, so they didn't ever want Tom on the show just because they didn't want it to be that show. Because it was such an odd concept. They didn't want to be like, oh, well, you know, let's add in the housemate that. And Tom wouldn't sit there and listen. He'd be like, boring. He's very much in his own little world. And he's actually quite hard to understand. So Yvie and I would have to then re-say everything Tom said. And there'd have to be subtitles. Yeah, it wouldn't have worked.
Were you and Yvie friends before you moved in with Tom?
Yeah. So I met Yvie when I first moved to Sydney. I was 21. I moved here for film TV behind the scenes, so I was interning my butt off for free.
What do you mean film TV behind the scenes?
Like production, coordinating, all that, marketing for documentaries and things.
So you didn't have a desire to be in front of the camera particularly?
No, never. I always wanted to be behind. I always wanted to direct, produce. I really wanted to do theatre directing. I don't know why. That was just my passion back then when I was studying. So for work, I would nanny or I would do promotional work. One time I did a Christmas promo and Yvie was Mrs. Claus and I was her elf and we just fell in love. I was living in Queen's Park at the time and then she moved in with Tom and she just like full conned me into moving in. She was like, Tom loves you love the dogs. You live there in return for free rent. And I was only young and so expensive to live in Sydney and I was like, I'm going to try it and see if I can do it. And I did it for like 4 years.
And with Gogglebox, how do the mechanics of it work? Do they send you a package and you sit down one night and watch everything, or do you watch it in real time? Is there a crew there? Do you just press a button that films you?
No, there's definitely a crew there. So they come twice a week. They're not in your face. It's kind of like little cameras set up in the corner of your house, but it's operated by the cameraman at the time it was my room, and everybody sits in there. But yeah, you have a producer, cameraman, soundy, transcriber and a runner. So it's quite a crew. It's a big setup. People think you just sit there, watch TV, but you got to get set up for 2 hours and they give you the content and sometimes it's in real time, sometimes, it's advanced content too.
Filming TV can be notoriously slow, like a lot of stopping and starting. Do the shows just run and you just talk, or is it like, can we just stop and get that again?
Usually with Yvie and I, they would just let us talk. But if there was a point that we might have missed or maybe talked over while the show was still on, they would just be like, oh, can we just show you this? But they would never tell us what to say. They'd just be like, how did you feel about that? And we'd be like, oh, blah, 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 blah.
One of the things that I love about the show is that none of you seem to sort of get dressed up for it. Like it feels very real. Was that difficult at first to get used to the idea of just being at home in your jammies on the couch kind of thing?
I I think at the beginning, because we didn't know how many people were going to watch, we kind of were just like, whatever. I remember the first time, though, I did my makeup quite, like, more than I normally would. And I remember the EP at the time was like, you don't usually have this much makeup on. And I was like, yeah, but I'm going to be on TV. And he's like, that's not why we picked you, that we want you to be you, your natural self. And I was like, oh, okay. And then once I got used to it more, sometimes I'd just be in like jammies, or some days I'd feel like I want to get really dressed up, just going off my mood, and they kind of just let us do that. So it's really good.
Why did Gogglebox for you and Yvie come to an end?
Quite a lot of reasons. I wasn't living with Yvie anymore for 2 years. For about 2 years, I was living between London and Sydney, and it was getting quite a lot. And then I was moving, when I was living here, I was moving around. I was house sitting. I was constantly going back home to be with my family because there was quite a lot of illness and loss.
You lost your grandparents, didn't you?
Yeah,
I'm sorry about
kind
that.
of one after the other. One very unexpectedly, and once she passed, I was like, nah, I don't want to be in Sydney. I'm living out of my car.
Were you close to your grandparents?
Oh, she was I moved home to help a few weeks before. She just had like a bit of a fall, and her depression came back really bad, and I moved home to get her into a routine and lived with her for a bit, took a bit of time off work. And then, I came back the couple of weeks later and went to take her out for breakfast. And when I got there, she was dead. So that really rattled me. And I was like,
such a shock.
I don't want to be in Sydney living out of my car, living on people's couches. Like, I just wasn't in a good headspace. So I just said, listen, Yvie, would you be okay for me to not do next year Gogglebox? And she's like, I'm done. We've done 4 years, 8 seasons. We've won 3 Logies. She was happy for me to move home. She could see I was struggling, and she was over it as well.
What were you doing in London?
I was an au pair, and I was just travelling and living, like, just hanging out with my best friend. She lives over there, so it was great.
You said on the show that you've never been in love before now, presumably. Yes. Had you had relationships though?
Yeah, definitely. I peaked really early in the boyfriend department. I had 3 boyfriends quite young who I just absolutely adored. I feel like I loved them, but I loved 2 of them. Don't know about the third one. But I wasn't in love with them.
What do you think the difference is?
I think I was young and I was just in love with the feeling of having a boyfriend and the way I felt, and just being carried away with it all. And then being in love as you get older, it's like a partnership. Yeah, it's just different. That's why I don't feel like I had ever experienced proper love, because I was only like 16.
Oh, that is young.
And then finished up, kind of dated 3 guys and finished up at like, 21, 22, and was like, nah, I need a soul search.
When I was around that age, I would confuse sex with love. So I would sometimes sleep with someone and then just go, oh, I love him. But I didn't.
No.
Looking back now.
You look back.
Some people can separate the two, but I found it really hard to when perhaps I should have. Did you have that experience?
Oh, at 18, I started to sleep with my first boyfriend. God love him. I made him wait 2 years because I was very religious back then.
Were you?
Yeah, I brought up Catholic. So I was like, no sex before marriage.
And
then now I don't even want to get married. I'm like,
no marriage before sex.
Beat it.
What made you change your mind at 18?
I thought, I was like, I loved the way he was. And then I worked out that it sounds very odd, I wanted to be him. He was quite a bit older than me. I learnt so much from him. He got me out of a very bad place that I was in mentally, family stuff, and I just realised I just totally wanted to be him, and he was my best friend. And I was like, oh, I'm in love with you. Like, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. And I had to be like, no, I'm moving to Brisbane to study, and broke up, and then just dated a couple of other dudes, and then had boyfriends, and then I didn't want any after that. I thought, God, I just had one boyfriend after the other and just wanted to work on loving me.
You came of age. That sounds so old. You came of age. You were in your 20s when the apps turned up, right, and changed dating life. Were you on the apps?
They started, like 5 years ago or something?
I think. And did you, what did that do to your dating life? Like, how did you notice that changed the way dating happened?
I signed up for Tinder twice. I always say once, but it's actually twice. Once, just because I wanted to see what everybody was talking about. and met one guy. We hung out for a bit, blah, blah, blah. And then after that, I was like, nah, don't like it. I think kudos to you if you like it, go for it. But I'm more of like a connection person, toing and froing. My humour sometimes doesn't come across very well in text. I'm very sarcastic, and they're kind of like, wait, are you into this? Or enough with the jokes. It was just like, joke. And they're like, okay, bye. And then one other time I was in Bali with Yvie and Tom, and I was like, I want a holiday romance, thinking no one would know who I was. And then everyone in Bali is Australian. Are you the girl off Gogglebox? And I was like, delete app. This is not going to be a mystery romance, delete.
If you didn't meet them on the apps, how did you meet people to date?
I was always dating, but I was never open for anything more than just having somebody to hang out with and have that relations with, because I was always moving physically, like to different places. Yeah, so I never allowed myself to kind of form connections, because I was like, well, I want to go back to London, and then I want to go here, and then I want to go there.
Well, I suppose you never found someone who made you want to stop running from.
And I was always big on that. I was like, when the timing's right, the timing's right, and I just was not ready. There was too many things I had on my list. And I'm very independent, and I didn't want to resent myself or anyone else. So I just never allowed myself to get close enough to have to do that.
How did the Bachelorette come about?
So Nanny passed away, and I moved home, and everything kind of, I just surrendered. I was like, I'm not planning my life. I'm not picking up. I'm not moving all the time like a crazy person. I'm just going to stay here with my family, look after my mum, just stay in one spot for a little bit and sort my head out. The Jungle called 2 weeks after we left Gogglebox when we were in Bali.
Was that a hard decision to do? I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here?
Not for me. I was like, I've had the worst year, one of the worst years of my life, and I didn't know who I was anymore. And I was like, I think it'll be beautiful just to be stripped from all my vices, thrown into a jungle, no phone, not worrying about my family, just getting to know all of this. And I loved it.
Like a reset.
It was a reset. It was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. I never would have done Bachelorette without the jungle.
I want to understand why, because, I mean, for me, I know what you mean about the seductive idea of a reset that you have no choice in. You have to give up everything at once. But were you worried about what that might do, all that time to think and taking, all your crutches gone?
Yes, I was petrified. My anxiety was kind of at its finest, that constant fear of who's going to leave me next with losing Poppy and then Nanny so unexpectedly, and seeing her there. Like, I was just like, I could go into this jungle and be a complete and utter lunatic and have a breakdown. But that was the risk I was willing to take, because I felt like it was a sign from her and from the universe, and I was like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I took the risk, and it was the best risk I ever took, because everyone in there is equal. We all want the same thing, and that's food and good conversation. We have nothing to hide. We're all dirty. We all look awful. We all smell the same. All you crave is that connection, alone time to meditate, and just food. And it was the most simple time, and I realised I'm such a simpleton, and I loved it.
It seems like you've moved around a lot, as you say. Has that been looking, obviously you haven't been following love, like you haven't met someone and moved to the other side of the world. Has that been sort of to advance your career, or just your sense of adventure, or looking to find yourself?
I think it was looking to find myself. I worked out after all of it that I was so unhappy with who I was, and I thought moving to all these different places and having 50,000 different responsibilities and caring for 100 rescue dogs and caring for a man with Down syndrome, I could then numb what was really going on within me. So then when I finally moved home, yes, I still had to look after my family, but I've been running from working out what I really want. Yeah, it was never love. Career originally, moving to Sydney. And then, just always trying to search for, what am I missing? What am I missing? Why do I feel like this? But had a good time along the way, obviously. You've got to learn through the hards, like the ups and the downs. And I definitely think I did I did that. It was just an extreme way of living.
What conclusion did you come to after you left the jungle with all of that time?
I had so much time to think, but not think too. I meditated a lot. I did a lot of just because you're so weak, because you're so hungry. So I didn't work out or anything. A lot of them would pick up rocks and do that for weights. And I'd just stretch and meditate. And we're always in the waterfall. You're so close with nature. You just have so many deep chats. And I was just got to, really talk about my struggles with an eating disorder, my mental health, losing my nan. And I was like, you know what? I've done everything I've said I've wanted to do. I really want to fall in love. And I remember having this conversation with Richard Reed, and I was like, I really want a partner. That's the only thing I've never been open to because I've been so frightened. Yeah, I left the jungle, and the day I landed back in Sydney, Channel 10 called me and they were like, do you want to be the Bachelorette? And I was like, Nan, is that you again sending me a sign? I just took it as a sign and I was like, yep. I didn't even think about it. I was like, this is the way she wants me to find love and this is the way I'm going to take it. People find love in way more bizarre situations.
I imagine they have a few people that they look at. What was the process of you deciding or them deciding? How does that period work before it's official?
Who they're going to pick for Bachelorette, do you mean?
Yeah.
I don't really know. I was away for 6 weeks in South Africa, and then my manager called me and he's like, as soon as you land, we've got a meeting with 10. And I thought it was just an audition chat. And I kind of went in there and I was so high off jungle vibes, still a bit ratty and woo, just so stoked with life. And I just went in there just so myself, not nervous or anything, and just hi. And didn't really know who I was meeting. And then I was like, whoa, these are the huge heads of Channel 10. I'm like, all right, so I'll chat to you about it later. And they were like, no, it's yours. If you want it, it's yours.
Did you have questions? What? You must have.
I did, yeah. I had heaps of questions. I was like, if I take this, are you going to let me be me? Am I going to have a say in how I dress? Because I don't want to be... say you pick me and then you make me go, oh, don't say that. Oh, no, don't do that. I'm like, I can't do that. I want to do it and be me and show women that you don't have to change and be super sexy and not chat and be dorky and crazy to get a man, because the right man will love you for all of my sweatiness, my gross mouth, sometimes my awkwardness. And they were like, that's what we want. They never told me to not be myself or just, maybe don't say that. Men might not like that. Never. They're like, go be free. Go, Angie. And I did, and it was the best.
When you said you wanted to say in how you wanted to dress, what did you not want to wear?
I just said to them, listen, you're not going to get the real Angie if you just put me in bodycon all the time. I'll be even sometimes with baggy stuff, I'm still just I want to be comfortable. They've Bachelorette-ified Angie. But I was so confident within myself halfway through that I was like, oh, actually, I quite like that tight dress. I quite like that being short, because I wanted to wear that, not because anybody else was telling me to wear it. I felt like I was a little girl in the jungle, and then I was this woman that kind of, was making decisions and wanting to dress how I wanted to dress, but trusting in them making me, more Bachelorette-y, but Angie style. They were very good with that.
The choice of the Bachelorette is a very specific one because it's women who watch the show.
Yeah.
So it's got to be someone that women are rooting for.
Yes.
And I think that they've been the most successful seasons, not when there's been a boys' girl or someone who's perhaps more overtly sexy or sexual than your girl sitting at home like you and Yvie used to do on the couch. We've got to be rooting for you.
Yeah, I think that I've been... Well, not lucky. I've always just been a girl's girl, but I've also been a guy's girl because I've got brothers and heaps of guy cousins, but I've always put my friends first. So I think picking me, I probably have way more of a female support than male. For sure. I don't think men would sit at home and be like, yeah, she's super sexy. Whereas women will be like, go girl. And I love that. That's my thing. I'm fine with that.
One of the most interesting things about The Bachelorette, I find, and we've seen it play out in the last couple of weeks, is how the boys immediately try to group and impose bro codes and try to regulate who gets to spend time with Angie. And I can't work out whether that is a dick-swinging alpha male thing or whether it's some – I think they sort of try to disguise it as being chivalrous, and we just want to let Angie decide. But it's like, no, we just don't want anyone else dropping in on us. How did you perceive it?
At first, I was very conscious of the fact that this is a full-on environment, and we do full-on things when we're nervous. We might say the wrong thing and act in odd ways. So I was like, I'm going to give them a bit of time to sort their
dynamics.
Yeah, and it's like I've rescued a lot of dogs. I don't want to compare men to dogs, but we are animals still at the end of the day. We've come from some kind of, animal. You let them kind of sort out their stuff, and then I'm like, if it keeps going, I've got to step in. And I do. Listen, there's no bro code. This is an Ibiza trip. Come and talk to me if you want to talk to me, and I'll come and talk to you if I want to talk to you. But yeah, at first I kind of was like, they're nervous, let them do their man thing, whatever it is. And then if it's starting to get a bit much, I'll step in and say, what are you doing here? And if you don't want to be here, because I was serious about finding someone. I didn't want anyone around who wasn't interested for my ego's sake. You know how people are like, oh, you can't walk out on the Bachelorette or the Bachelor. It's like, yeah, you can, because it's not working then.
Yeah. I
want you to be happy and I want me to be happy. Yeah, it was interesting to watch. I thought my boys were great. I think that they listened when I would say stuff, and they really had a lot of respect. Well, I hope. I haven't heard them say anything bad. They had a lot of respect for me when I stood up and was like, I don't like this kind of behaviour, and they'd kind of be like, oh, she doesn't like that. Like, listen to her. They weren't like, oh, whatever.
With the situation with Jess, who was the deputy mayor from Noosa, who was sexually inappropriate and said some sexually inappropriate things, how did that play out on set and for you, as opposed to then how you saw it sort of play out on the show? I
didn't realise how bad it was. I knew within myself something didn't feel right. And again, I was like, give yourself some time. People may just be nervous. I say some really odd things when I'm nervous. I'll give it another day. And then at the photo shoot, I just didn't feel it. And I noticed the boys started feeling uncomfortable. And then when I found out he was hitting on the girls in the crew as well, from producers to runners to hair and makeup. And these are girls that probably felt like, women, I should say, that probably felt like they couldn't say anything because they might have been frightened. I remember when I heard that, I went out of my way to ask them, and I'd be like, don't ever feel frightened to tell me that. You're not going to get in trouble. Because I feel like women too sometimes have this thing where they're like, they'll blame the girl. Oh, well, she was probably flirting with him. And I was like, no way. Let me stick up for you and myself and tell me these things. Nobody wants some creepy dude making them feel uncomfortable. He has no right to do that. So as soon as I heard he was doing it to the other girls, I was like, I can stick up for myself. They can't.
Did it surprise you to see how the boys pushed back? I thought that was so heartening. The way the boys were like, dude, that's not on. Whereas a generation ago or even 5-10 years ago, the boys would have been like, oh.
High-fiving.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, get in there. No, the boys felt. I didn't realise how much they spoke about it without me around. And that little fight between, I think it was like Maddie, Scott, there was a bunch of them that were like, don't, and Tim, don't talk about it. And he's like, well, the cameras aren't.
Bitch. Oh, yeah.
He's like, the cameras aren't on. And he's like, I don't care. Don't talk about her or anyone like that. There's some good men out there. And that was really nice to see.
Yeah, I thought that was really heartening as well.
Yeah, it was nice.
When you go out on dates and you have the single dates and you have that intimacy, I imagine, and you've just kissed someone or whatever and you've given them a rose, how do you process that you then go into a group situation? Because it's like you've created this intimacy, but then you're dating other people in front of them. That must clearly they show that it feels weird for them. But how does it feel for you?
I think Angie, out of the Batchy bubble, would find it quite odd and confronting. But you're just in this world. It's just all love and it's all connections. And I actually didn't find it that hard. I thought I would, but I knew what I was there for, and I knew I really wanted to to leave the experience with the right person, because you put your body, mind, spirit, heart into this thing. I think people think I sit around and drink cocktails when I'm not filming, like with the boys. It's
What
like,
do you do?
oh my gosh, what don't I do? No, it's long days. I'm not allowed to talk about it too much, but it's constant, and it's a
Long
lot
days
of
filming.
Yeah, long days filming, and just, making all these connections that you don't see off camera. I mean, all the boys that go home, I did not talk to them. I spent a lot of time getting to know their backstories, why they are the way they are, and that's a lot of energy. And being such a sensitive person myself and picking up on everyone's energies, I'd take all that on and think about them and their families, and that's someone's son, that's someone's brother. It's not all fun and games and dating, but I had to kind of switch that side of me off and think, this is about you, not about caring for everyone else like you've done your whole life. So what, you kissed a boy during the day, you're here to make connections. All these other guys got to get a chance too. You want to make the right decision.
You'd already finished filming when you saw what happened with Matt, the Bachelor, and at the end with Abby, and on the beach, and how she was slut-shamed for saying that she really wanted to have sex. What was it like for you to watch that? What was your view of that whole situation?
I think that anybody who isn't the Bachelor or Bachelorette or works closely on it, they have no idea what they go through. The amount of feelings invested and time spent either together or just apart, and the thoughts that are going on in people's heads. I think Abby expressing herself was amazing, and I think she should be able to say whatever she wants. It made me feel sick the way people treated her. She seems like a really lovely girl. Express yourself however you want to. And he obviously really liked her. So why should they get punished for really liking or potentially falling in love with each other?
Well, he didn't get punished. She did.
Well, that's the thing. Why didn't he get punished?
Yeah.
And, for example, Kieran on my show can nude up, but she can't roll around on a beach and say she wants to have sex. But he can get, and I love that Kieran did that. I'm so impressed. I'm like, you do you. Like, I'm so happy he did that. Showed such a confidence and that love he must have within himself to be able to do that. Same as her. She was just expressing herself.
And that's also a part of dating, right?
That's dating, yeah. So I don't understand why he's like, yeah, what a hero. And she's like, oh, that's where that gets me upset.
In the American version, they have sleepovers.
Yeah.
In the Australian version, we don't.
No, we don't do that.
I've heard people say, isn't it a risk to pick, not that you're committing to get married, but to pick someone without having slept with them first? Because what if that side of things isn't good?
You can tell a lot about a person based on a kiss with this show. You really can. You get to do it obviously more than once. The conversations that you get to know each other more on a deeper level, whereas I think that can be just as deep and emotional as sleeping with someone. Yes, you hope after when you pick the person, you're like, God, I hope this is the same when we get to the boudoir. But you just know. You can just tell that it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of tell.
Who do you have to talk to during the season?
As in like...
In terms of just workshopping through how you feel about different people, especially as it gets to the pointy end.
Yeah, that's tough. I got to talk to my mum once a week, but never about the show, just about the family and how's my dogs and how's my friends and how's that. In terms of speaking about the show, I have my minders. So they're like your paid friends, but they do become like your best friends because you live with them.
What do your minders have to make sure you do or don't do?
Oh gosh, they're your brain from when you're not filming. They're amazing. They just make sure, because there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, outfits and making sure things are packed and it's cold, and they organize. They're kind of like a PA but a best friend.
Is that confusing, like people who are paid to be your friend?
It is. I thought it would be, but no, because they were so beautiful, and we form like such a sister bond that you really trust them, that they're not going to go back to whoever and use anything that I don't already say to the producers or whatever. And my hair and makeup artist, so you get
to workshop things with them.
Yeah,
because you need that like
they're like my
girlfriend
family
equivalent, because you couldn't speak to Yvie through it.
No one, no friends, no family. They became my family, and I was good friends with my producer, but I had to remember that she's my producer and I trust everybody. So, you know, having such a beautiful girl squad around me really helped with minders, hair and makeup and stylists. That's your circle.
Did you imagine what might happen if you got to the end and sort of not found what you were looking for? Like, how old are you, 29?
29, yeah.
Did you want to do the show also because you had a bit of a biological clock or fear of, I mean, turning 30 can be a big deal for some women. I think any milestone birthday, you kind of take stock, you do a bit of an audit. Am I where I want to be? Have you got special thoughts about or particular thoughts about 30 or expectations of where you thought you'd be at 30?
In terms of a relationship, not really. In terms of career, my whole path kind of changed as soon as I got on Gogglebox. I always feel like when it was going to happen, it was going to happen. I have endometriosis too. So in my mind, it's like if I want to have children, I have to start thinking about it within the next 5 years. Otherwise, I've been told it's going to be very hard. But again, I wouldn't let that be too much pressure because I think what will be will be. And I trust that no matter what, I will be a mother, whether it's my own or adopting or fostering. So I don't put too much pressure on that. I think you just do whatever you want to do.
And what do the next few weeks look like?
More just chatting about this and embracing what I'm seeing on the show. Yeah, I mean, it goes so fast. So just trying to stay present because you can get really carried away with all of this and just, making sure I'm having a relationship even though it's not a very functional one.
Did you find what you were looking for?
I did, yeah, definitely. I did originally think, oh my gosh, what have I got onto this? And at the end, I'm not overly, ready to say that to someone or be with someone, but that wasn't a problem for me at all. I was almost overwhelmed with the amount of feeling and connection I'd made with quite a few people. So it's definitely, it'll be full on to watch and to relive as well.
I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to see how the rest of the show unfolds.
Me too.
And it's just a delight to watch you
thank you.
Dating such a strong, empowered woman who knows what she wants.
It's taken a long time. I don't want people to think I woke up one day and was like, I've got this. It takes years of work.
Any tips?
Lots of trial and error. But you just... do your research.
Therapy?
Yeah. Lots of more so spiritual healing and stuff for me now. Lots of talking to just where I could hold pain in my body, staying out of my mind and listening to the signs of my body and knowing your diet can just be such a massive impact, play such a part in your mental health. That was huge for me. And just knowing your worth, know when to say no. And know that there's going to be other people out there. So surround yourself with good people because life is very short and very unpredictable. So put yourself, got to look after number one.
Thank you for listening to this episode of No Filter. If you'd like to read our Bachelorette recaps, and why wouldn't you? I love the way that we tackle reality shows on Mamamia. We very much put a smart filter on something that's dismissed by a lot of people as dumb. Because the idea that you are dumb if you watch a reality show and want to talk about it is really sexist, I think. And it's a way that I think is often used to put women down. This idea that if women are interested in it, then it mustn't be that smart. Like, fashion, celebrity, gossip. You never hear men having to apologise for sitting down and watching 4 hours of sport. We have a Bachelorette hub page on the site. If you just search Mamamia Bachelorette, you can find all the details. I'm Mia Freedman. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Mia Freedman, or you can sign up for my newsletter where I like to write about things occasionally. Go to miafreedman.com.au or follow the link in the show notes. No Filter is produced by Rachel Hart. I'll see you on Mamamia.